Yes, hello. Well prepared as always.
like
Again, it's
that?
Gamble and Finn, larger than live. Yes.
Action.
Take only, because we don't retake.
Right. It's first take, only
Yes.
take. Yes.
First take, only take. And here we are. It's larger than live. It's the Good Sports Edition, right?
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
Something of that nature?
Absolutely. Right here in the
All right.
bubble. The weather's
Yeah,
a little chill outside,
Yeah.
so we came inside the bubble so we could not practice, but really perfect our art.
It's light again, though.
It really is.
Despite the fact that it's after.
Well,
it's amazing how this has been going on.
I think what last week, it just so happened we broadcast from an exact replica of your backyard in Alaska,
Right,
where it's
yes.
light 24 hours a day. But I think it's safe to say that we went ahead and recorded this in advance because it is impossible to get here during our normal time of day.
yeah.
With
Right.
the bridge being the cluster fidge that it is,
Right.
and 275 being a complete jam session, no matter when you're on it.
Well, I was going to say, most of the time you would think if 71, 75 north is obviously being shut down, you would think you could just, but the problem is everyone's diverting onto 275 both directions. Then when you even get on 275, people in northern Kentucky, especially who know how to work their way around via Dixie Highway, Route 8 that runs along the river, I mean, that's now back. Even all of those are starting to back up. And I got news for you. I've talked to a couple people. I know they said maybe around a month. I think it's going to go much longer than that. I have no insight. I'm certainly not a civil engineer looking at bridges, but if it means anything that we live here and you live there and we need to traverse this route, I'm just guessing it's going to take a little longer.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, if I was somebody that used that bridge every day, take as long as you need. You know what I mean?
No, well, I'm telling you.
There was a good chance with them closing down the suspension bridge, too. It's like, I can't believe they did that. Well, do you want 4 semis in the river? Because that's what would have been the next play. And there would have been somebody trying to sneak over in the middle of the night or whatever, so they had to do what they had to do. But I'll tell you, going eastbound and around from here with all the trucks trying to make their way to 471 to get to the Big Mac, it's a nightmare.
Well, I don't want to give any secrets away here that might screw up your commute one way or the other, but I would tell you we have really gone west from here where we are, west 275, and it picked up either cross county or just kept going around because at least there, the issue over here is if you go eastbound to what you just said,
71,
everybody
75.
is especially people who don't know.
Right.
They would see the only alternate route is going 275 to 471. So, and at least if you go west, for the most part, unless there is an accident, which at some point in time there's going to be, and my God, when that happens, good luck.
Well, the bottom line is sometimes you have to be flexible on where you're going to do what it is you're going to do, which is exactly why we got involved with our buddies at Fueled Collective, who are one of our partners on this show. It's a place for you to go when you don't want to go to the place you usually go, or office space for people who don't need a big office space. If you haven't checked them out there in Rookwood, you can still get to them from all angles in the city, and office space, teleconferencing space, a social area with a full bar. Make sure if you're going to get your membership and buy some space in there, that you absolutely check that out, because that is a nice bonus. I just got another note from those guys. They do a very good job with their membership of keeping you up to date about changes, like if they're boosting and upgrading their Wi-Fi, or if there's going to be an event that's for members only, like they did back with the Derby and things like that. So if you get out to Fuel Collective there in Rookwood, make sure you tell them Gamble and Finn sent you, so that we can keep continuing to have them as a partner. And Fred, we got to get out there and start having some meetings out there, but everything keeps getting shut back down.
Right. Well, I've got a thought. Maybe, as you well know, they've used it as a football fundraiser for St. Xavier High School in the past, because there's a connection between the manager of the place and St. X. I'm just wondering now that St. Xavier has won another state football championship, might they have some kind of celebratory, if you can even do that, of that nature? Might they do something out there, be the perfect spot? And you did mention one thing about that Rookwood area is you really have pretty good access to it from everywhere. No matter where you are, there's a way where you don't have. And again, if you're north in Ohio, it doesn't. The Brent Spence Bridge isn't affecting you whatsoever. Even if you're going east or west over there, it's just, of course, it's where we live, and trying to get north, it sucks. Yes.
Well, you made mention of the perfect segue. The reason we're calling this the Good Sports Edition is not just because we're always good sports, but because there's a lot of good sports, except for one, I guess, to talk about here in the area. And we'll start with Specht and St. X. I mean, that was just, I couldn't believe, you called me, I think it was in the first half, and you go, Fred, it's already 30-3 or something.
Well, it was 30-0 at the end of the first quarter. It was 44-3. The final score, which was 44-3, was the score at the end of the half. And I had a number of people call me because I was watching it on OHSA.TV, which you can watch it, and it's their statewide broadcast, and even I couldn't believe it. I mean, look, Pickerington Central, which was the defending state champ, and they'd won 23 straight games, and they're good. And we've had the luxury of having them in the Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown. Their coach, Jay Sherritt, does a great job. They've got dudes going to Notre Dame, Northwestern. They got studs, too. And especially, and maybe we read too much into St. X winning 10-7 over Lakota West, 12-10 over Springfield. Looked like their offense really wasn't doing much. But I got to tell you, Steve Specht, who's a friend of the program and is a good friend of mine, he had talked. I saw him at halftime, and they interviewed him going to the locker room, and he said, we've talked all season about what it would be like if we put one together, where if we had the offense and we had the defense, and that's exactly what they got. I mean, they turned the ball over 5 times against Springfield and still won. They were outstanding. And Jalen Patterson he had 5 touchdowns on the year coming into the game. He caught 4 in the first half and was 1 yard away, tackled at the 1 from a 5th. Crazy. Wow. I mean, and Liam Clifford, who's going to Penn State University, whose brother Sean, older brother, won it in 2016 at X, he had 4 catches for 6 yards. So I think that speaks volumes about St. X, because obviously Pick Central said we're not going to let this guy beat us, because Clifford was outstanding in the previous 2 games. Fidge agrees. And from there, they diverted it to some of their other guys.
Right.
I mean, to Terrell McFarland. He caught some passes. They weren't able to really run it that well, but Brogan Mackay, their quarterback, who turned it over 5 times the previous game, was lights out. Was 26 of 40, and
now,
what a great finish for St. X.
Was it a running clock the entire second half?
In Ohio, I was not fading in and out, but paying his lids. But yeah, they got to a running clock, absolutely.
Yeah, because that second half, I was watching it. I was just watching the score on ScoreStream.
Yeah,
I had to laugh because we always laugh about ScoreStream. At our other gig, Thursday nights, 9 to midnight on 700 WLW, they run these promos for ScoreStream that are constantly outdated. The person who does the announcing clearly knows nothing, because I can't.
They're
wait
not from Cincinnati.
I can't wait to hear them congratulate Steve Specht and St. Xavier.
Well, at least they didn't have to say Coleraine or Reading.
But I was watching 44-3, 44, and then all of a sudden it said final. I'm like, holy, that was a quick half. So, but congratulations, Coach. And it was kind of cool because we were flipping. Well, I know you were flipping in and out. I was flipping back and forth from looking at the score there to the UC game.
Well, that's what I was doing too. I had it on the computer. We had UC on one TV, Iowa on the other. So it was a Friday night. It was a busy Friday night. And how about this? They're the only team, a little bit disappointing here, from Greater Cincinnati to win a state title.
Yeah, because I think LaSalle got beat.
LaSalle got beat 14-10. Now, in fairness to LaSalle, they played without 2 of their best players, Jabron Payne and Devontae Smith, who's committed to Alabama. Payne's one of the most highly sought-after junior running backs. He's been hurt. Devontae Smith, I believe, was in protocol. He didn't have COVID-19, but nonetheless had the quarantine. And then that was Friday night. And then on Saturday, Wyoming and Roger Bacon both had leads and both lost. No shame, they're in the state semifinals. And even Lawrenceburg in Southeast Indiana got beat in their regional final. So it'll just be St. X, and Kentucky may have 1 or 2 if Kentucky gets all the way to the state finals. That's a huge if.
I mentioned that to you. I looked up Trinity, my alma mater, and their game that was scheduled for this Friday was forfeited by the other team, Marshall, I think.
Well, now let make sure I get this right. This past Friday was supposed to be week 1 of the playoffs. The KHSA decided to delay that, so this coming Friday, is this the one this coming week?
Yeah, this coming Friday.
And you're going to see a lot, because a lot of teams have literally shut down fall sports. In some school districts have shut down. So can you imagine that? Somebody was telling me, I believe it's Holmes. Something like Holmes, by the time they go into the postseason, they're going to essentially have had something like hardly any practice. It's a weird, and you got to wonder at some point. I mean, you obviously want to get, that's why you're playing. You're playing to get to the postseason, to play in the state playoffs, to win a state championship. But man, oh man, I mean, it goes to show you sometimes delaying you've kind of delayed and maybe brought about the inevitable.
And we'll get to that when we get into some of the NFL talk, because it's been interesting to see the different ways different teams and different conferences within the NFL have decided to deal with COVID. I mean, we'll get to that.
There's no consistency at all.
And that's the exact
it's crazy. We talked about that last Thursday.
Right, and it's gotten even more bizarre now, especially after you look at what happened with Roethlisberger and a couple of others. There's just no.
I'm not sure I even understand
standard
that
plan.
Right?
I don't know what happened with him, but I thought it was kind of cool, just to finish the St. X thought, that during the UC game, there was obviously, with Rocky on the sideline, Rocky Boyman, an ex-grad, but they were constantly, talking back and forth about him and his involvement, and they congratulated St. X on the victory. And then they showed a clip, I don't know if you saw that during the game, of the ex-players standing and singing and chanting in front of their fans. And so that was really cool to see that on that scale, on the college game, which then brings me to the UC game. But did they go down in the rankings again, UC? Did they drop a spot or hold at 7?
They're held at 7. They're number 7.
Again, and they talked a lot about this on the game the other night too, is these guys talking about, what the Big 5 or the other 5,
Power 5,
Power 5.
Yes.
Well,
it looks like Cincinnati and BYU are the two that are non-Power 5, and I know Coach Luke Fickell, the Bearcats, hates that Power 5, but that's what everybody talks in that vernacular. Right. And BYU's really, really good too. So is UC. They're very, very good. Now, they've still got some business. This Saturday, they're at Central Florida. That's probably their toughest game of the year.
Yeah.
But there's even been talk about, could UC play BYU? I don't know. I guess when I look at it, you have to feel like Ohio State, and it posts Indiana. And don't laugh at Indiana. This is not your sister's Indiana team. They're pretty good. So you've got either Clemson or Notre Dame, maybe both, from the ACC, and Alabama from the SEC. In theory, I guess Oregon in the Pac-12, maybe somebody in the Big 12. I think that's unlikely. It's just tough. Well, it's just tough to get in.
They kept asking the question, what do they have to do? And I kept thinking the same thing. And I will tell you, on fourth down when Fickell went for it and they got it, and they just kept piling on, and they're like, he's clearly making a statement.
Well, the other coach was miffed, right? They had some. I think they weren't too pleased about last year's game with East Carolina. But what are you supposed to do? And the other piece is he had some backups in. If you're any good on the other team, stop them. At some point,
and he had the backups, running hard and working to score. And they're like, you wouldn't think they'd normally do that, but they brought up a great point. You never know when they're going to have to get in first string and perform.
No question.
Between now and whatever the end of the season actually is. And that's something you never really think about. These guys come in, maybe throw a couple of passes, kneel on the ball, and it's over. But these guys need to be ready to go hard and fast game time. So I didn't have any problem with that. And I hear that all the time. In grade school, maybe don't run up the score if you got a team that's – but if you're competing, you should compete to win as big as you can and let as many people get in and experience that winning and learning that level of excellence as you can.
You should, and it wasn't 75-0.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think there's a threshold for me. I'm a good sport, right?
Right.
We're all good sports
Right.
when we talk sportsmanship. But you know what I mean? If you're beating somebody like Clemson beat Georgia Tech earlier this year, 77-7. Okay, and in some ways, he had backups in the entire last quarter. I'm a big halftime guy. To me, you can play. I don't care what the score is in the first half. Your starters deserve the opportunity to play a half. And I don't even say that in high school. I think high school is different too. You shouldn't beat somebody into submit. But then you hear people talk about, they were just taking a knee. They were disgracing us. Well, then if they ran the ball and scored, you'd bitch about that too.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways.
You're not going to make the loser happy. The loser's going to have to learn how to lose, and I think that we're very much in the middle of that particular conundrum.
Yes, we are. We won't
in this
mention
country
that
now.
Right.
But if you need to learn how to lose.
Well, the other piece with UC is I would have thought when Central Florida a few years back, especially when they had their great year and beat Auburn in the bowl game and declared themselves national championships, you would think that something like that would help now. But it doesn't seem to. And I get the fact that it's all about money and you want fans to go to those games, but I got news for you. I don't care where you play. You're not going to have many fans this year anyway.
Yeah, it's not about
so if there were ever a year where give a non-Power 5 school a shot, especially, I'm not suggesting don't give to somebody who doesn't deserve it, or give it to somebody who doesn't deserve it. But I think UC and BYU, I'll throw BYU in that mix too. They're damn good as well.
Well, there was a lot of talk about that amongst the announcers during the game, and I really enjoyed just listening to the game with them doing the game as well. I mean, I don't know who that guy was who was the lead play-by-play guy, but he was really good. I don't know his name.
And I should have just
Pescatel, or I don't remember what his name was. He looked like Mr. Bean every time they showed his picture. He kind of looked like Mr. Bean.
I could have told you Saturday morning, but a couple days now past at my age, you forget things like that.
Just by way of reset, it is Larger Than Live, Gamble and Finn. He's Gamble, I'm Finn. We figure most of you who are watching know that by now. You can find us here Monday nights at 7 o'clock. You can find us when we have a house guest, usually Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. And then you'll find us on 700 WLW from 9 to midnight, as long as that lasts. So, and then...
and don't forget, this Wednesday, we don't have a house guest this week for you, but we're working on something that could conceivably be special, where you might be able to come join us and meet some of the house guests that we have.
For some of these house guest episodes. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of cool.
So just keep paying attention. We also are trying to kind of migrate this entire thing from Facebook Live over to our YouTube channel, which is also Gamble, capital N, Finn, F-I-N. So go over there and subscribe to that. Tell everybody you know. Let's get some subscribers up. It doesn't cost anything. So, you're wasting your money on a lot more than something like that. So come over, subscribe, and I think you'll find the flow is really good. We're working on the idea of some best of shows and some different things. We just have to go find out anything we're best at, and then we can make one of those shows. But
it'll take us a while to put that edition together.
And it's funny. Before we go any further, I want to kind of dovetail off that. We've talked about this before, and we tend to, the number of people that can watch this live, I know at any given time is limited. So the replay is great. The YouTube replay, and a chance to check it out when it's convenient for you. The other question we've asked ourselves is, if we just pushed the audio from this to a podcast, or you could just bring it up on a podcast channel on your phone and listen in your car without the benefit of having to look at us, would that be something you would also be interested in? So as you're watching this, put that in the comments if you'd like something like that, where we go and do just the audio. We just take the, we're not doing anything separate. And we might do some special little things somewhere down the line that are just for the podcast, but just an audio version of this. Would you find that interesting, and would you use it? Because that is something we can easily make happen. But if you don't want to do it, we're not going to waste our time doing it. That's pretty much where we are.
I think a lot of people do, though, like, as you mentioned, in their car, or when they're just wherever they may be, and they can only, catch it on audio, and maybe they don't need to see us.
Right. Well, and think about this. If you're an over-the-road trucker and you miss America's Trucking Network and you don't want to listen to porn, I mean, you could be listening to this for at least 45 minutes. You know what I'm saying? I always thought that would be great, just to have that channel for truckers, because anyway. I'll see all of you on the way home.
Yeah, but we're trying to get them to concentrate on the road. Maybe we'd still be driving on the Brent Spence Bridge if that wasn't the case, right?
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it was the lack of an ATN that they didn't know what they were doing anymore.
Well,
and
that's
they went cuckoo crazy. Okay, so we were talking good sports, and I'm going to move, because since we're talking football, let's stay with football.
Okay.
The Bengals yesterday, was that the Bengals, or was that the anomaly now? Because honestly, that was horrendous.
I'll tell you what that was and you would have thought, coming off the win over Tennessee, they had the bye week, so a little extra preparation. Now, they were down guys. They cannot run the football at all. And I don't care how good your quarterback is, at what level. And again, Pittsburgh's defense is really, really good. That's too much pressure on throwing the football. You got to have somewhat. I mean, let's be honest. If Pittsburgh hadn't been able to run the ball like it did yesterday, that opened things up in the passing.
Well, but see, I beg to differ. I don't think the Steelers ran nearly as effectively as they should have. They need to get Snell in there.
I'll give you that.
A little bit more.
But they still ripped off a 15-yard run here. They used Claypool around the end. I mean, they did do some things like that. The Bengals can't run it at all.
But the Steelers can't defend the run either. So, and they did get a couple of that. Was it Perrine?
Oh, no, yeah,
who is that guy? He
played in Florida. Yeah, he's actually not bad.
Yeah, he was. I mean, when he put his nose and went downhill, he was really, making some headway.
By that point, though, I mean, the biggest.
It's weird. I'm defending the Bengals and hating on the Steelers.
The biggest issue is their start was horrific. They muffed the punt. They damn near got called for a safety when Fred couldn't get out of the end zone, which turned out to be a touchback.
Right. Now, how was that not a safety, by the way?
Well, that's just
he touched the ball out the end zone.
Yeah,
comes in,
went back. It's weird.
That shouldn't that
but
have
then
been a
there's
safety?
I don't know. I don't write the rules. But then they 3 and outs. I mean, they just and really it was funny. As bad as they started early, I'm thinking it's still only 3-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Me too.
You're thinking,
That's what I was thinking.
You're thinking along those lines. But I think in Burrow, he came up a little lame because he's taking a beating.
Yeah.
I mean, he really and truly is. The other thing I noticed yesterday and kind of thought, then T. Higgins fumbled. And Pittsburgh's opportunistic, man. Their defense is good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really good. I thought to myself, they're still trying to get the ball to A.J. Green. And I know
he is. He doesn't care.
Well, they'll talk about, I don't think it's that he doesn't care. He just can't get separation like he once could. So he'll make it seem like, they're covering him and this. I just think he can't get open like he once could.
He's easier to cover, is what you're saying.
He is easier to cover. I mean, Boyd and Higgins are, they still don't really have a great pass-catching tight end. So back to your original question. You got to remember, they're 2-6-1. I mean, I think everybody, including myself, likes what they've seen in Burrow, but you got to remember 2-6-1 is terrible. Now we can talk about, and we did, and we pointed out the number of games they should have, but you're still a losing team until you figure out a way to win those games. Right. The Bengals are still losers. Now, let's talk about the rest. You figure they still have Pittsburgh one more time. That's Monday night, if I believe.
I think it is a Monday night, yeah.
They have Baltimore, which didn't look very good, lost in New England. Baltimore's struggling, right? Then you've got the 3 horrific teams from the NFC East, Washington, Dallas, and the Giants. Then you have Houston and Miami, which is suddenly resurgent and pretty good. Tua looks pretty good. So, but my point is, you're 2-6-1. I think you have to look at that remaining schedule and say, to not be the same old Bengals, you got to get to 6 or 7 wins for me. If you're down around 4 or 5, I'm going to have a hard. You won 2 last year. So now you've got this rookie sensation, Joe Burrow. If you only win 2 more games or 3 more games, you kind of got to go. Because they spent money in the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, they have an influx of free agents, which doesn't happen very often. So I don't know. I mean, I just think.
Well, and you run the risk up in the owner's box of the owner going, well, I spent the money last year,
what did
look
he do?
what happened.
Right now, I will tell you.
We were not excellent.
I will tell you Pittsburgh. I think in the AFC, if you're really looking at I think Pittsburgh, Kansas City still is very
still
good.
The team to beat.
I know they lost to that last-second Kyler Murray heave yesterday, but Buffalo's playing pretty good too.
That Kyler Murray is another one. He's just unbelievable. This the stuff that guy.
But
can
you know
do.
what? He is unbelievable. Here's what I would tell you: if you take that out of you can't win week in and week out with that
way. Yeah.
So you've started to see that with Seattle, like Russell Wilson. They got a couple of injuries on offense, and all of a sudden Seattle now 6-3. I mean, so they've lost some games. But the one thing about Pittsburgh is, and even Roethlisberger, and yes, he still makes I don't know how the guy moves sometimes, but you know what? I still would take him if you needed a play, like the one play where they pressured him and he stepped up and he found the guy in the end zone.
Yeah,
it
didn't look like there should even be a way to him to get the throw off.
He still makes plays like that, and again, that's because. But the difference of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati is simple. Pittsburgh is surrounded with good players. Burrow, he's got some, not enough.
With potential.
So let's not lose sight of that. So to answer your question, I think the Bengals are better, but they're not much better. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, I think, and the Titans have shown themselves to be not so good.
Well, right. I mean, they've lost three in a row, inclusive of that game. Well, it started with the close loss to Pittsburgh where they were down a ton and came back and missed that field goal. And then the Bengals beat them. And then the Colts gave them a pretty good – you would have thought they would have come back in that game.
Right. So finally then just kind of wrapping up as far as the NFL, Tampa Bay for real now?
How the hell do you
It's
know?
hard to tell. Yeah.
I mean, they got slaughtered 38-3 by New Orleans, which doesn't have a very good defense. They got 3. Now, Carolina's defense isn't very good, but boy, the Bucs sure did come back and scored 43 points. I think they're good enough. Look, you got Brady, you got Gronk, you got Mike Evans. Antonio Brown actually had some catches. I mean, you've got enough guys, and Bruce Arians is a competent coach. Yeah. I tell you what, the playoffs could be interesting if they get, and keep going. There's a lot of teams. I don't think this year there's 1 or 2 teams that are so far much better than everybody else. Could make for an interesting play.
Well, it was interesting because, as of last week, it just solidified that Tomlin, who has had his ups and downs in Pittsburgh, still he confirmed again last week, never having had a losing season.
Right. Which is pretty impressive when you
so
think
now
about
they're 9-0. My concern, as always, is the late season injury now to Ben, because Mason Rudolph is, besides being very punchable in the face, doesn't strike me as the answer there. So I don't know what that backup's going to do. But
by the way, rough day yesterday for our very good friend Stacy from the Erlanger-Ellesmere VFW Hall. I'm sure she was euphoric when the Bills took that lead, because you would have thought it was over.
That was a great catch.
And then they're down to, and I love watching Football Night in America because Tony Dungy once again is like, and he's right. He's like, why would you not jam the receivers? You let them catch it underneath. The one thing, there are 4 Bills around DeAndre Hopkins, 4, and he made the catch. That shouldn't happen.
Unbelievable. No, and then the Hail Murray, as it was.
Which is pretty cool.
I like that from Tirico.
I don't know how he made that throw too. He scampered
over.
Going
the opposite way.
He was almost out of bounds on the left side. He's right-handed. He looks like he's about 4'10", and all of a sudden he heaved that thing. That was unbelievable.
That was a great throw. And then what was the other thing that I saw that blew me away? No, it was the was it Nick Chubb who stepped out of bounds before and just screwed Vegas royally?
Right, correct. Well, Chubb, so Cleveland was running out. Cleveland, I want to say, was favored by more than 3, and they were winning 10-7. I think they were favored 4 or 5, something like that.
It was 4.5, I think.
So Chubb, if they get one more first down, the game's over. And I guess Baker Mayfield said in the huddle,
get the first down and
just lay down, and we'll run the clock out. Now, it's interesting you brought this up. I almost forgot about it. So he broke free down the left sideline, literally was going in for the touchdown, and stepped out at the half-yard line with 20 seconds, 30 seconds? 50, okay.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest with you. They're very selfless. Well, very selfless, but I got to tell you, the one point I made was, if he scores, they're up 10.
Right, it doesn't matter.
There's no way Houston, who's scored once in the entire game, is scoring twice in the last minute.
If the point was just to end the game.
But you know what?
Right there.
You got to love that, because you've heard that all too often, and guys don't do it. I like him, too. He's a hell of a good running back.
But the funny thing is, what's that? Am I swaying? Oh, yeah. That's because I'm in my sweatpants.
We had to
feel very comfortable.
Doing some of our interviews this year for the Skyline Chili Crosstown Show. There was one school. It was just one. I don't know why. Man, they were like, it was like
the people you were talking to.
Oh yeah, their interview. No, not me. I stand pretty. But they were like,
I honestly, the reason I'm doing it is because I've got boxers and sweatpants on, and as I do that, it's like the
pendulum.
Let's just say it's like Notre Dame. I'm surprised.
Okay, here's the deal.
Donging, literally. Well, it wouldn't be donging. It'd be something
And I was
else.
about to say, I'm just kind of getting hungry until that.
Well, there you go. You're welcome. That can be your new diet plan. Yep, but I thought it was funny that Chubb, he didn't lay down and run the clock out. He ran out of bounds.
He just stepped out of bounds.
So it just totally defeated.
Right. Or maybe he would have been better off if he'd ran out at the 10.
Yeah, or just run around in circles. Since nobody was
right.
Just dance around on the end zone. And
take off from the left and go straight across to the right.
Okay. So, but my favorite sporting highlight of the entire weekend, as much football as we've talked about.
Yes.
Did not.
Oh, wait a minute. I know what it is.
I'll give you $1 if you guess what it was.
Well, you just get the buck out.
Okay, go ahead.
Tiger Woods taking a 10 on a par 3.
Yep. The hell with him. Yeah, that was so great. I will watch that clip. As much as I like that chip, the one 10 years ago that went up and down
with
and the ball
Nike
rolled
swoosh,
in and the swoosh,
yeah.
and Vern Lundquist losing it and the whole thing. As much as I like that, I cannot cheer for Tiger Woods anymore, and it's all because of his personal life.
You know what's
All
funny
of it.
for me?
I have no respect left for that guy. He was the greatest. He was better than Michael Jordan. He was the best
No
player to
question.
ever play his sport ever, to me, to a point. And then when all that went down with his marriage and all that stuff, I'm sorry. I can't cheer for that guy anymore ever.
I got to tell you,
Karma's a son of a bitch.
I like golf. I really
do
do.
too.
I like
I do
to
too.
play. I watched next to none of the Masters, and I
See,
don't.
I watched
don't know,
as much of it
did
as I
you?
could get my hands on.
And I don't know why. Maybe for me, it was just the no fan. Just
That was great.
You like that?
I loved it because there were so many better camera angles. They did. There was
Yeah,
none of that.
okay,
Yeah,
I'll
they
give
don't,
you
they don't really
that.
do the in the hole stuff at Augusta as much. I think you get taken out and shot if you do that stuff there.
At least beaten,
But you know
behind a
what I'm
big
saying?
tree,
Yeah, you were taken back and
thrown in an azalea.
Yes, you are very vehemently non-invited.
Maybe it's the time, because I mean, when you think, I know for me personally, if you watch the Masters in the spring, which is in its normal
5
time
months from now, they're going to be doing it again.
right?
That's
But
what's
I
so
mean,
crazy.
I guess if you want to play golf, you always get the itch and the fever to play right after you watch the Masters. I mean, I don't know about 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, we can do it. We can get out and throw it around. But I liked it because I was fascinated to see what Augusta was going to look like. I mean, they showed. I looked it up. That place was brown.
Yeah.
A couple months ago, and they overseeded with the kind of grass that gets green this time of year because that grass is usually dead. And they said in 10 days it went from brown to green. And I mean, those guys, and I looked it up. I was just curious how much they pay their head groundskeeper. They pay their groundskeepers like $20 an hour, $15 an hour. What I couldn't believe when I was looking
My
down the
guess
list.
is, though, you take that, if you're into that line of work, it's the fact that you would be the groundskeeper at Augusta National. It would
I
be,
guess.
I guess. Oh, I'm with you.
I guess,
know.
but I mean, you look it up and look at what it looked like. Just a
Dude,
couple
people do
months
radio
ago.
shows for free.
Yes, now that's true.
For free for people who abuse them.
Or close to free.
Close to free, right? Radio minimum wage.
But it was,
Right.
but just the whole thing. I mean, not seeing the azaleas, but they had drone shots that you'd never seen
Right.
before, and there was a lot more shots at eye level where you could see. I never realized how up and down that course is, and the greens. You saw the undulation of the greens way more, and I just thought it was a very well put together. There are some glitches and some oddities, but I thought Dottie Pepper was great. I really liked listening to her out on the course. And Nick Faldo he always cracks me up. He's
Sir
funny.
Nick Faldo. Why is he
Nick
Sir?
Faldo.
What is the?
They knighted him.
Oh, they did?
He was
I didn't
knighted.
really- okay, I
I just
didn't know.
really like him a lot.
I thought maybe Jim Nance had something for him. I didn't know.
Well, he calls Jim Ma'am, so I guess that makes sense. No, but Faldo was talking about. He was talking about the green jacket. Did you hear? Oh, you didn't watch any of it.
No, I didn't.
He goes. He was talking about one guy getting the low amateur trophy, and he goes, "That's nice." And he goes, "As is the Masters trophy." He goes, "People forget you get the green jacket, but you also get a very nice trophy." And he goes, "I'm fortunate to have 3 of those." He goes, "One is at my home in England," and he goes, "I'm not 100% sure where the other 2 are. The other one's in my office, I think." And Nance goes, "I think." He goes, "Well, if you're not using them, can I borrow one?" And that was the most personality I think Jim Nance
Now I'm
has
not
shown in 20
I'm not
years.
a huge Dustin Johnson fan though.
See, I was. I
Really?
more so than Patrick Reed. That guy
Oh no,
is
he's
a prick.
He is. He's a jerk.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
But
there.
I mean, and then taking and like I said, Tiger, not a fan of his. I thought Dustin Johnson. Now is he engaged to
Gretzky's
daughter? Yeah, she looked like a hooker yesterday. Did you see her on the 18th green in her Lululemons and her?
what
she
about
looked hot, but
what
she
about
looked like a
the
hooker.
one time Ricky
Fowler?
Do you remember his girlfriend? She was almost nude.
Yeah.
When she was wearing those like torn blue jean shorts. And,
I
like,
know.
With Ricky's mom, and I'm like, sheesh.
Yeah, somebody
surprised
probably
they
needs to-
allow that on a PGA Tour event, right?
Somebody needs to host a class on class perhaps, but Dustin
think they
Johnson to
care.
me struck me as a pretty focused and humble guy. I was cheering against people, and I don't like doing
Yeah,
that.
that's bad.
Rory McIlroy would hit one,
Well, he's not very. I mean, I don't know how
Bushes, I
that
would
dude
cheer.
he kept the number 1 ranking in the world for a brief period of time, and he couldn't win anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some of it was just they wanted him to be there, so
Maybe.
that's how he stayed there. But there was the one kid who had it was funny, the Australian kid, and I can't think of his last name now, but he was actually in the hunt. He was 2 strokes behind most of the
There
final
always
day.
seems to be a couple people in the hunt that you've never heard of, unsuspecting.
He was so funny because he looked like a total Australian hillbilly, and his caddy looked like Chris Elliott from Schitt's Creek. He looked like Roland, and he had the shaggy kind of mullety blonde hair. But the kid I'm thinking about it was C.A. God, what was I can't think of his last name. Smith, maybe it was Smith. That's why I can't think of it. But he had one like I called it a lenticular mustache. Like you would look at him from this angle and he didn't have a mustache, and then he'd turn this way and he did. It was like a prepubescent, terrible mustache. But it was so funny. But that dude, he was just like he'd hit a shot. He had 2 of the most amazing shots I've ever seen, and he just hit it and go doop de doop de doo and head on up. But I really enjoyed. I watched as much as I could.
Have you ever played a round of golf with a PGA Tour guy?
With a PGA Tour guy?
Yes.
No, I've played a couple PGA. I played
I can tell you,
courses.
Doug Martin, who we've had on our show before, the UC men's golf coach, he played on tour. He was a legitimate PGA Tour player for 9 years. Had a degenerative disc in his back and had to give it up, so he's coaching now. And he's also a private teacher. Played around with him one time at Triple Crown Country Club in Northern Kentucky. Brutal course. Brutal. He shot a 60. Now, it was raining. Miserable. He hadn't played. He shot a 67. And if you've never had the chance to play, you watch it on TV.
I've walked the course and followed like Freddie Couples and Ernie Els and guys and seen it.
When you're
insane.
out there, it's like you realize, like, why do I get angry when I'm terrible?
Right.
I'm so far away from these guys. They are so damn good. Remember the old "these guys are good"?
Yeah.
That was their and boy, that message couldn't be any more accurate.
Well, and what's interesting, because they had limited light, and so they didn't even finish full rounds the first couple of days. They would mark their ball, and then they said these guys would go and figure out what the next shot they were going to hit the next day when they resumed, and they were going onto the practice area and finding that exact setup to hit out of as many times as they could. I mean, that's
there was another guy from Northern Kentucky, Steve Flesh, who played on the Asian
Flesh.
Tour and then on the PGA Tour and was successful. He went to Covenant Catholic High School. Well, when he was trying to get back on tour, he played in the Kentucky Open at Lansing Point. And I got to walk around with he and his caddy during a practice round. And watching the little notebook come out, and, me, I'm like, how far do you think we are? Yeah. Is that the 150?
Like it matters to us.
Yeah, like, is that the 150? No, I think that's a 170.
Yeah.
But they are.
Oh, man, you gave me a 150 read, and I only hit a 148.
But they're turning out they're getting out that little book, and they're going they write down every time they play that hole and every shot. I don't have the patience for that. Now, I'm not that good, but I don't have
that's all they do.
I know.
And Tiger said, he goes, when you have a day like that, he goes, it's just you. There's no team to come save you. It's just you. And that's the most humble thing I think I've ever heard.
Well, and I remember Doug,
pie hole.
He used to play out of Traditions, which is right off of 275.
That's a beast.
And it's brutal. And he used to I can remember him telling me the regimen, the hours he would go there by himself and just hit certain shots. I'm thinking to myself, man, I get kind of edgy after 15 minutes at the range.
Well,
you know what I mean? That's why I
is,
suck.
Not only do you do that and get your muscle memory in the rote, but to remember it all. Their memories, when they, even listening to the guys announcing, back in 2007 when he was on 13 and he was, he
hit a 4-iron.
The 4-iron in those gray shoes. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't even know what I had for breakfast.
No, a couple times. Nothing. I covered the PGA when I was down at Valhalla in
Louisville. That's where I walked the tournament.
And the dude would come in and he would just go through his entire 18 and he didn't look at anything.
Yeah, let's not cast stones, Fred. You're like the Rain Man of high school football, like those guys are.
But I can't remember.
Round.
But hell, how many times somebody go, "What'd you have on that hole?" I'm like, I think about a 5 or a 6. I can't even remember from one hole to the next.
I always say, just put a carrot in the nose. You know what I got.
Well, a lot of times I tell them NR, not reporting.
Not remembering?
No, not reporting. When I suck so bad and go over a certain number, I'm done.
You mentioned something earlier. The best, you can walk with a pro and you can kind of look and see, the difference in the fluidity of the swing or the lack of, they're not overstressing and it's just whatever. The best golf lesson I've ever had was with the guy that was my caddy when I played in Scotland. I've told you that story.
You did tell me that story.
That guy was so funny. It was, dude, just, he just do a couple trips a weekend just to make some extra cash, probably late 40s. And he just carried my bag. He was asking, picked it up, and he goes, on the very first hole, there's like 60 people around on this outing when we went over there for this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to hit the first shot in front of all these people. And the hole went down and then straight up, and the green was up here. So most people were just pounding it straight into that hill. Well, there was heather about 3 foot high over to the left and over to the right. And I walked up and I met my guy, whatever his name was. He goes, oh, how you doing, Mike? Da, 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 da. And I go, just so you know, I know that's where I'm aiming, but that's where it's going to go, right over there in the heather. He goes, no, you'll be fine. Shoom, right to where I pointed. And he goes, I heard him go, oh, fuck. Like that, real quietly under his breath. And then he picks up my bag and he goes, oh, Christ, Mike, are you going bowling after this? And I'm like, what? He goes, this is the heaviest bag I've ever carried. I'm like, oh, it's going to be a long day. And so he had all kinds, but he taught me how to get out of a pot bunker and shoot it straight up and over. Took me 4 times to believe him, but on the 5th time I did what he told me to do and shot right out. He told me, he said one word I can't use because of an F when I was putting. The one I will use. This one I won't because I don't want us to get in that kind of trouble. But it was one of those where you had to putt it like 15 feet that way to get it over here. Of course, I didn't listen and left it 2/3 short. But then he goes, and he said he would say, okay, you thought it was a straight putt. He goes, oh no. He goes, it's about a Scotsman's deck to the left. Like that. And I'm like, what did you say? And he goes, it's about, and he's, oh, so anyway, but it was the best lesson I ever had. And we had all 4 seasons in one round too. It snowed,
I bet.
It rained, it was hot as balls, and then it was lovely. And it was all 4 seasons in one round at Glen Eagles. And then he said, and I hate this, in the wake of Sir Sean Connery, his death, but he said he hated Connery. That was Connery's home club. And he hated him. He was playing with Gene Hackman out there one day, and Hackman went to tip him afterwards. So he goes, don't tip him. That's what they get paid to do. I'm like, ooh, don't tell me that. 007 always tips.
Well, you remember, if you talk to people like that who see those kind of people in their true colors, sometimes that's why when I was a sports writer, I was very dismayed to meet some of the people that I kind of revered as a kid, and then find out that they were just jerks as adults.
Well, hold that thought. I think we got ourselves a topic for next month.
Okay, I will. Oh yeah. Okay,
I don't want to blow it all out.
No, that works. I get it.
But I think that wraps up kind of a nice good sports edition.
Sure,
and I
absolutely.
Think it was a good weekend.
Yeah.
Sports.
Oh yeah.
I think
we got a graphic though. We still got our
show and tell.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! This is my favorite part. This is the best part of the show, actually. All right. How about that?
You want to go first? Or you want me to?
You go first.
Okay. I will. This is my personally signed copy from Steve Specht, head coach. I figured it was appropriate, of head football coach of St. Xavier. Fourth and Redemption. It's a book that he wrote, and it was kind of he was an English major, and a guy named Dan Weber, who's actually out in Los Angeles now, who I used to work for at the Kentucky Post many, many years ago, was kind of his editor on this. And he's got Urban Meyer wrote something in here, Rocky Boyman did, but personally autographed copy, and it couldn't be more appropriate. And I joked with him, I texted him over the weekend, I'm like, all right, have you been taking notes? Because you might have to write another one now, because he wrote this. St. X, he's won 4 state titles, 2005, 2007, 2016, and then this year. But the 2016, that's what this is about. And he very forthright in there. I mean, Steve went through some tough times, and
hold it back up. I was like, you're missing your cues there.
And he talks in there. He got to coach his sons, Hayden and Cameron, and he's very honest in here. So, and you can order this. I want to say it's Coach Specht, SPECT.com. And I know you've been reading it. Yeah. I know Skinny's read it, said he really enjoyed it.
It's really good. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I remember I was busting your nads because he put this real long note in mine about how he likes doing the show and everything else when I had mine outside. But to your point about you've known him forever, I've only met him through you over the years. But this tells you everything you need to know about everything you just said on top of it. So Saturday or Friday night, 9:26, I texted him, "Congratulations, Coach. football finger, number one finger trophy. I thought maybe in a week he'll see
yeah,
that.
no.
That was at 9:26. At 10:41, thanks, Finn, great group of kids.
Yeah.
So it was,
Yep.
he responded in an hour and 10 minutes
Yeah.
and gave all the credit to the kids. That's everything you talked about in that book is right there in that text.
He said the same thing to me, and there was a couple other things.
I'm sure
but
you
it was
got some extras.
But no, it was. But I mean, it was. He said these bombers were truly legit. I mean, you know, because I think there's always that kind of like, and I'm telling you, Pickerington Central is good. I know people look at, they see that score and you think how and this and that, but you know, wow, I would have never believed. I mean, when it was 30 to nothing, I thought, and you know, it is interesting how they muffed a punt, pick Central, St. X got it, scored, and just the momentum. It was almost like they needed that little bit, and then from there, over.
That was it. Well, again, we kind of end there where we began. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mine, I don't really have a sports relay. I guess I should have brought my Steelers football. I didn't even think about that.
We're getting tired of this Steelers crap. Just get on with your damn
It's an athletic shoe, but this is mine. I have a lot of shoes.
I should remember this one, right?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there. Yeah, I think so.
I was.
I think I brought this one when Jackal came into Bogarts.
Yeah, I was we went to the concert.
And Daryl from Run DMC was there, and that's what this is. This is, you know, they were famous for my Adidas, which was always kind of their thing. So the picture's up. But then on the other side it says DMC, and then a little smiley face, my Adidas. And then on the back, I think he signed everything. He signed JMJ RIP to Jam Master Jay, who was killed in some suspect circumstances as a result of some bad decisions that he made, but always true to his boy. So I was just looking, I'm thinking, it's weird I have so many autographed shoes.
Yeah.
I don't know
you do.
I
got to be honest, I don't have one autographed shoe.
One
I have a lot
shoe.
of things autographed, but no shoes.
Well, if you were to get a Michael Jordan, wouldn't you have him sign an Air Jordan, though?
I think you'd want to. I mean, I think that would certainly be one. That,
yeah. My other one is that shoe that I got from the cast members of The Walking Dead.
Right.
And I brought that one. I've had that one once before because I went up to get Scott, who played Herschel, God rest his soul, and he looked at it and he looked at the shoe and he goes, a right shoe or left shoe or whatever, and I go, well, you don't need it anymore, because you remember his character lost his leg below the knee, because that's hilarious. Okay, so now we wrap up the Good Sports Show because we're taking the show on the road for sports. And that's going to be on actually December 28th.
That's right.
We're heading back to the VFW Post 6423. Ralph Fulton with our friend Stacy and her crew. It's her Bills against last night's victorious Patriots.
Right. That'll be a good one.
So, we'll be back out. If you want to come out and join us, it's open to the public. We'll be down there before game time. And we had a great time out there last time. And so I think we'll be inside.
Hopefully they'll have some of that Guinness Milk Stout on tap.
I can't find that. I got to go find some more of that. That's so good.
Maybe you'll just have to get a barrel.
Maybe I will.
I mean, wouldn't last very long. Go right ahead.
All right. See, you can do that on this. You can't do that on the radio. Right. Actually, you can't do that on the radio anyway. I think it's illegal. But anyway. So plan to join us if you want to come out. The Ralph Fulton VFW Post 6423, December 28th. The perfect after Christmas gift for yourself.
It's right there on Dixie Highway. Easy to find.
Maybe we should do like a blind gift exchange too, a re-gift exchange. You want to do that night? You bring something you got that you don't like, and we can just randomly.
Can I bring more than one? I'll bring a whole. I'll wrap one up.
That doesn't say much about your expectation level from your family about all the things you're going to get as wonderful gifts. All right, so we'll do that. Why don't we we'll plan to do that. We'll do a re-gift exchange. People can bring something they don't want.
Works for me, yeah.
If you come up and get involved.
Right. Oh, you mean, I thought you meant just something that I had currently.
No, something you received for Christmas.
Okay.
That you got for Christmas that you don't necessarily want, but somebody else might enjoy.
Gotcha.
You bring it wrapped up,
that's fair.
And then you get to have Christmas all over again.
Works for me.
How about that? We'll be preparing to get out of this godforsaken year and into the next one.
Not fast enough.
It ain't going to be over in 2021, kids.
No.
Hate to tell you.
And don't forget, check us out Thursday nights while you still can, 9 to midnight, 700 WLW, The Reality Check.
I think that pretty much wraps it up.
I think that sums it all up
Mondays
right
here
there.
at 7, Wednesdays when we have a house guest. Watch for more information about what's coming, because fingers crossed we'll have something really cool planned for you there as well. If you know anybody that wants to sponsor the show that we haven't made angry, please have him reach out. gambleandfin@gmail.com, or you know where to find me on Facebook. Don't go looking for him on Facebook. You'll never find him.
Actually, do look. See if you can come up with
Yes,
anything.
if you do find him, let us know, because
Yes.
it ain't him. Anyway, all right. He's Gamble. I'm
All right,
Finn.
have a
We're
good
here
week.
in the bubble. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it
Cheers,
has been.
Fred.
All right, you got it, Fred.
Keep your social distance.
Yes.
We'll have you hear us on Thursday night, 9 o'clock to midnight on 700 WLW.
Bye.
And